Thank you for joining us today for our webinar with Shep Hyken, the Chief Amazement Officer of Shepherd Presentations. He is the New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling business author of the book we gave out at our Spark Conference, Moments of Magic, as well as several others. For those of you that weren't with us in New York, we'll go ahead and send you a copy as well. Before we get started, I want to take a quick moment to thank our corporate sponsor, Essilor, for giving us the opportunity to bring you this webinar today. Good morning, Shep.
Hey, it's great to be here. I'm excited, and it's like I'm back here in New York City, but we're going to be talking about what we talked about in New York City.
Exactly.
And we'll give, I know we talked about what we're going to do. We're going to give them a little recap. So for those that were there, this is a little bit of a review, very short. We did almost 2 hours. We're going to do this in about 5 or 10 minutes.
All right.
And then we'll kind of expand on a couple of ideas. And for those that weren't there, you get an idea of what we did. Plus, I think if anybody wants the notes, I sent you notes. I understand that you sent them to the people that were there.
Correct.
Did you send them to anybody else?
We sent them right now just to those that attended the conference in New York.
All right. Would it be okay if anybody emails you to
Oh,
send them?
Absolutely.
So how do they email you? I'm sure they know.
Absolutely. They just email me at angie.vera@optiport.com.
All right. And I know we need to spell Angie.
Yeah, A-N-J-I-E.
Exactly. It took me like a month to figure that out. So that was my little moment of misery. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. So, Shep, at our Spark Conference in New York, you discussed moments of truth, moments of misery, and moments of magic, as you just mentioned. Give us a little highlight on that.
Sure. And so let's do that. And that's the whole premise of everything I do. Back in 1983 or 84, there was an article that was written by Jan Carlson. Jan Carlson was the former president of Scandinavian Airlines. And he was brought in to turn the airline around. It was losing literally millions and millions of dollars monthly, and I don't know if that was going to put them out of business or not, but it was bad.
Wow.
So he brought everybody into an airplane hangar in each city. They had a presence, so he had these big meetings, big airplane hangar, hundreds, thousands of employees, and he said, here's what's happening. The passengers aren't flying on our airline anymore. So, or they do fly, but they don't come back. So what we need to do is turn that around, and it's real simple. We're going to manage the moment of truth. And he defined the moment of truth as any time a customer comes into contact with any aspect of a business, they form an impression. Now, he said anytime a passenger comes into contact with any aspect of our airline, but to paraphrase in general terms, anytime one of our patients comes into contact with any of us, they will form an impression. And it could be patient, family member, maybe mom or dad is bringing their kid in, or maybe somebody's with their spouse or with the parent or whatever. You get the idea.
Right.
What we want to do is manage these moments of truth for a positive response, a positive impact. So Jan Carlson said the moments of truth can be good and they can be bad. And I said, that's fine. Yes, moments of misery are what we call the bad ones.
Right.
Moments of magic are what we call the good ones. But there's also one in the middle. And this is the trap that many companies fall into. And that is what I call average or satisfactory. Those are interactions that are just okay. There's nothing special. That why should I do business with this optical or vision center versus another that might be down the street in a mall that's advertising heavier? And the answer is you don't want to be satisfactory. And by the way, I call those moments of misery, moments of mediocrity. And mediocrity is average. And we want to stay away from misery. Obviously, that's a complaint, a confrontation, or a negative experience. Mediocrity is average. At the beginning of the presentation, I threw a stat out, a statistic. Back in, I can't remember what year, but it was out of Vanderbilt University. There was a study done on frontline types of businesses. Now, I consider what we do very frontline because, patients come in, they have a choice. It's not like, it would be nice for them to have some connection to us. If I go to my doctor, okay, but if I go to one of our vision centers, I might see one doc one time and maybe a different doc the next time. That happens, yes?
Definitely.
Right. So where's my connection to my doctor?
Right.
Well, it needs to be a connection to my place that I go to. So what we want to do is try to connect. So here's what these professors said, that up to 40% of satisfied customers don't go back. And my thinking is 40% of our patients who said, yeah, they're okay. They're just another place to get my contact lenses, just another place to get my script filled for my eyes. I think if that's the way they think of us, they're not going to come back. What we need to do is create some connection, some sense of loyalty. beyond the loyalty program, by the way, because many loyalty programs are really marketing programs designed to get people back.
Right.
True loyalty programs connect with a customer or a patient. In our case, if we were to get rid of any incentive to come back in the form of a loyalty program, would the patient or our customer, if you will, still want to come back? And I think that's really important. So we need to be that good and create that good of an experience, create that much credibility, and ultimately create the confidence for them to say, I want to come back here and I wouldn't want to do business anywhere else. So moment of truth, moment of misery, moment of mediocrity, moment of magic. It's all about the interaction that you have with your patients. Avoid moments of misery.
Right.
Stay away from mediocrity or being average, and magic. Now, here's an important point. I mentioned that a moment of magic is above average, or I didn't actually, that's what it is. It's above average.
Sure.
A moment of magic is a positive experience. It is just that, above average. Magic doesn't mean, wow, blow me away, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. The best companies in the world are not that way. And by the way, any company can blow a customer away when there's a problem, when there's an opportunity and something's handed to them. Oh, we had a complaint, let's fix it. Oh, they're having a situation, let's take care of them. But we can't wait for those to happen. We have to be good all the time. We have to be better than average all the time. Now, how much better than average? Again, a moment of magic is something better than average. Amazingly, you don't have to be that much better than average, just a little bit better. But the key is better than average all of the time.
Right.
That's what's hard, because it's really easy to slip back into being just average.
Definitely.
Right. So the goal is, maybe it's just the attitude, maybe it's the smiles, maybe it's the way the phone is answered. Every time I go in, these people are always so friendly. They're always so knowledgeable. They're always so helpful. The word always followed by something positive is what we want to hear.
That's what we want.
Right. So and again, it doesn't have to be amazing over the top, but I believe that when you are consistently better than average, that is definitely amazing.
I agree. And Shep, can you provide us with some strategies and concepts that they can use to create these moments?
Sure, and we did that. We gave everybody a top 10 list, if you will. So I have that top 10 list with me, so I'm going to do a very quick, if I can do this in 5 minutes, that would be great, because we did it in 30 or 40 minutes.
Right, sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody wants to hang on and stare at the screen for the next 45 minutes. But here they are, really quickly. Number one is to manage the first impression, which is not just the first time you meet somebody, it could be the 500th time, but what you're setting the tone for the interaction that's to follow.
Right.
That's it. It's that simple. So it's when you greet somebody, it's the way you look them in the eye. Are you dressed for success, dressed professionally, whatever is appropriate? How do you answer the phone? Do you welcome people into a conversation? So that's number one, is manage that first impression. Number two is your knowledge or expertise. And really, you're a vision center. You're expected to be somewhat knowledgeable in what it is that you do. So if somebody has questions, you should be able to answer them. But here's the important thing. You don't actually have to have the information to be able to answer the question. You have to know where to go or who to go to get the information.
Right.
Maybe you're not the doc, so maybe you're talking to a patient and then you go and get the information and bring it back. That's credible. You need to be straight up. Say, hey, that's a great question. You know what? I'm going to go check with Dr. Bob or Dr. Mary or whomever.
I will find the answer.
Yeah, I will find it, and I think that's just as important. And when you get back in a timely basis, if not even just in a moment or two, I think people are very impressed, and it creates confidence. And remember, I used that word confidence earlier. That's a word we used throughout the presentation. I kept talking about the goal is when you create confidence, you create loyalty. So it's a huge part of the value proposition.
I agree.
So number three is simply to build rapport, and that is to communicate on a level what I would call past eyes, okay, past business, and that means you talk about things that are going on in the world. You have that little opportunity to interact, and what do people like to talk about more than anything? Family, that's right. They talk about themselves, they talk about their family, they talk about their kids. Specifically, when you say family, it's usually about the kids.
Right.
Yeah, don't ask them about their husbands and wives because they're going to come and go. But the kids are going to be kids. And always be the kids. Here's the thing, we have our database, on our patients, and when they come in, we pull up information about them.
Right.
There might be a field or two in there that allows you to put something personal. Hey, the last time they were in, they mentioned that they were getting ready to go on an amazing trip. The last time they were in, they mentioned their kids going to graduate, or their daughter won a soccer game, or some, interesting tidbit that you could put in there. So when they come back, you could say, hey, the last time you were here, I noticed you were going on a trip. How was that trip?
Right.
So you see what's going on?
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So you're building rapport. Number 4 is enthusiasm. This is kind of a motivational one, and I think this is really important for the people that work in the offices and vision centers, that they're enthusiastic about what they do. They're positive. I mean, we're helping people see better. I remember bringing my daughter in for her first set of glasses. We didn't know she needed glasses.
Sure.
She was in, I think she was in first grade, and the teacher sent a note home that we need to check the vision of her daughter. They aren't sure that she can see.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and so what we did is I went to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor said, "Do you want to see what your daughter sees right now?" And they put the lenses, and how they I don't know what the technical term is.
Putting the lenses around.
Right, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, she can't see. Exactly.
Right.
And so that day put the glasses on, and it's like, you should have seen her face.
Aw.
It lit up, and I can't imagine that anybody in that office wasn't as excited as she was to see that look on her face.
Right.
I mean, enthusiasm is contagious.
Oh,
that's
definitely.
what they say. That's
I
the old
agree.
saying. And if what you have is not enthusiasm, my friend Danny Cox says this, it's also contagious.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number 4. Number 5 was, we spent a lot of time on this one, but let me just spend a moment and give you the general idea. It was communication, and specifically to ask an extra question, to make sure that you understand what somebody is saying. By the way, every one of these ideas that we're talking about not only apply to the patient and what we would call our customer, but also our internal customer, the people we work with, who we support each other, okay? Because what's happening on the inside of an organization is felt on the outside by a customer. So keep that in mind, that your internal customer picks up on all of these. And this one especially is important.
That's very important.
It's communication. And we used one idea. We had one lesson, and that was to ask the extra question. And the concept there is, when somebody says something, you ask a question to make sure so that you don't misunderstand. And the very simplistic example that I used was, somebody said, "I need this quickly." And the other person said, "Okay." And then they brought it back in an hour, but apparently this person thought it should only take 5 or 10 minutes.
Wasn't their definition
It
of
wasn't
quickly.
their definition of quickly. And you know what? Everything could have been resolved if the person who went off and did it in what they thought was quickly instead asked the question. One extra question. Sometimes it's more than one question, but I call this asking the extra question. I need this quickly. And the other person says, how quickly? Right, exactly. With a question mark, 2 words, and all of a sudden the person says, "Can I get it in 10 minutes?" And you say, "Well, that's pretty impossible, and I'll tell you why. It usually takes about 2 to 3 hours. And here's why." And you go through the process. However, I can go back there now. I can jump in front of everything else I have. I could probably get it done in half that time. Would that be acceptable? And all of a sudden, you've explained why, and this person who needed it quickly, their expectations are realigned, and they go, "Well, that would be great. Thank you very much." And then when you bring it to them in an hour, they go, "Wow, man, that was fast. Thank you very much."
Right. That's great.
So it's just by asking the extra question. And of course, I had some very funny examples using my life, but we don't need to get into those. You had to be there. Okay. So number 6. Number 6 is no mistakes, or no moments of misery. And I think that's going to happen. You're going to have a problem. You're going to have a complaint. And it's how it's resolved that not only fixes the problem, but restores the confidence. And this is really important, that restoring the confidence. Anybody can fix the problem. It's how they go about it. So I have this simple 5-step process. And it's very easy. And in every situation that you have that's negative, you can use this process. I'm not saying it's going to turn things around 100% of the time. Believe it or not, though, it turns things around like a huge amount of the time. There will just be some situations that are out of hand. But this is a good starting point for every situation that's negative, and could resolve almost all that are. Number 1, you acknowledge that there's a problem. And number 2, you apologize for it. And by the way, you can flip number 1 and number 2. It doesn't matter. Those 2 are the first things that happen. So somebody's upset about something, and you can simply acknowledge it by saying, "Oh, I completely understand why you would be upset about that. Thanks for bringing that to my attention." And By the way, right up front, I just want to say I'm really sorry this happened. We're going to get this resolved. By the way, number 3 is to get it resolved. You discuss the fix. Either fix it on the spot if possible, or discuss what the remedy is going to be. So acknowledge, apologize, fix it. Number 4 is to do it with the right attitude, and that attitude is one of ownership, and that means it comes to you. It may not be your fault, but it's your opportunity. You may not even be the person that ultimately takes care of the problem, but you own it until it's properly handed off. What you don't want to do is say, you know what, you came in here last week. I was on vacation last week, so this is not my fault that this happened.
Pass the buck.
Right. But you can say, you know what, I wasn't here last week. I need to find out more information. Let me take care of you, and let me find this out. I mean, there's that sense of ownership. And number 5, and this is a really important one, you do it with urgency. You do it quickly. You do it fast. So acknowledge and apologize. Fix it with the right attitude and a sense of urgency. Those 5 pieces, when they lay out nicely like that, you're able to turn around most situations and restore confidence. Because here's what you want people to say. You want them to say, you know what, I love doing business with them. Even when there's a problem, I know I can depend on them.
Right,
okay?
right.
And I say, I love doing business, but that's because I'm a business guy. All right, let's look at number 7 here. So let's real quickly, we've got manage the first impression was number 1. Knowledge, expertise was number 2. Building rapport, number 3. Number 4 was enthusiasm, and it's contagious. Number 5 is to ask that extra question. Number 6 we just covered, which is to hopefully have no moments of misery. But when there are, we now have a little process in which to deal with them. So number 7 is quality at every turn. And the real simplistic idea here is that, you know, we pretty much sell a commodity. I mean, anybody can go anywhere to get their glasses,
right,
get their contact lenses, and whatever other needs they have provision. And what we want to do is we want to have a high quality product, because people want that, and we also want to deliver it with high quality service. So your great product, without delivering it with good service, means that patient or that customer is going to go somewhere else and find it elsewhere.
Oh,
okay?
absolutely.
Number 2, if you have the best service in the world, but your quality of your product, and I might say the product might be, you know, the diagnosis and the you know, vision test and all that. If you don't do that properly and it's wrong or whatever, and I can't imagine it would be much of the time, but I'm sure there are times it happens. If you have great service and your product doesn't do what it's supposed to do, or it's not the quality of others, people are going to go elsewhere, no matter how nicely you treat them. It takes a combination of the two, and ideally, you know, 1 + 1 would normally equal 2. Well, when it comes to quality on both sides, service and product, 1 + 1, the sum is greater than the parts. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right, number 8. Love this one. UPOD. Remember what it stands for? UPOD. Under promise,
over deliver.
Over deliver. Very good. Under promise and over deliver is one of my favorite strategies, and it's one where you set an expectation and you exceed it. You know, we're going to go ahead and get those lenses for you. We'll put them in your new glasses. They'll be ready in a week. We'll give you a call, and 2 days later you call them up and go, hey, and they go, wow, that was quick. Yeah, well, it usually takes a week, but you know, we asked them to put a rush on it, and they did, amazingly. And people, wow, you guys are good. Now, make sure you always have your expectations in line so that people don't like, oh, I expect this every time. But you set an expectation, one that the customer will agree with, and then you exceed it. Number 9 is consistency. Everything we're talking about here is an all-the-time thing. You can't be great one day and just okay the next. You can't be really friendly and have a great, sweet opening and cheery, and then the next day they come in, you're in a bad mood, and they sense it. No, consistency is really important in any aspect of the business. The line that I always use is from, oh gosh, what's that famous actor? Richard Burton. Richard Burton.
Sure.
I don't know why, I always forget his name. but I always remember what he said. Richard Burton was famous for being on stage, TV, radio, movies. He's most well known for his stage work. And he used to walk out on stage night after night in his performances, and he used to say, I want to be so good tonight that I cheat the audience that was here last night. Basically, what he was saying is that I want to be better today than yesterday.
Right.
And if everybody would come to work with that kind of an attitude, even on a down day, they would still be putting forth their best effort. And I think people pick up on that, and it's credibility, and it's confidence building, and it's a moment of magic. So, you know, I guess consistency, come to work every day with the best effort in mind. And number 10, finally, is to show appreciation. And that is to say thank you over and over again. And that's what we do. We never lose an opportunity. I told the story of a cab driver. And by the way, if anybody wants to see that story again, just go to my YouTube channel, which you go to YouTube and at the end, we're at youtube.com/put in Chef Hyken. Okay? And my YouTube channel will pop up. And the first video at the top, I think it's the first, maybe it's the second, you'll see it. It says the taxi cab driver story.
Great story.
Great story, and it really represents everything we've talked about. But the thank you, the appreciation was really important. A thank you note from a cab driver doesn't happen very often. Well, at the end of my trip, I said thank you. We had exchanged business cards. He asked me for a business card. And 4 days later, I'm in my office, and I had a thank you note from my cab driver.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, wow, I'm calling this guy back the next time I go to Dallas.
Right.
And I did until he retired. Frank would take me around everywhere I needed to go.
Sure.
And but the thank you note was really helpful, no doubt. He also sent holiday cards every year. But I think anytime you have a chance to show appreciation, be it pick up a phone and make a call, shoot a quick email, even a text message, if that's the way people like to communicate, don't lose the opportunity to say thank you. So those were the top 10.
They are some good top 10s,
Well,
too.
thank you.
Best top 10 list.
Oh, thanks.
Chef, so how can our members and their staff use this information to handle complaints, disgruntled customers, bad online reviews?
Sure. Well, first, I think that we need to get everybody on the team into these top 10. And by the way, these are my top 10. I think they're appropriate for everybody in this business and in this industry. If you agree with them, great. If you only agree with 8, well, that's fine. If you have 2 or 3 more that you want to give, add to it, make it a top 12 list. What I would do first is I would not give. If you can have everybody listen to this program that we're doing today. But after that, take each one of these one by one and say, you know what, this week we're going to work on first impressions. How are we going to greet people? And just that's all you do that week. Week number 2, knowledge. Now, here's the idea. Whoever is going to champion this cause within an office or, wherever, the Vision Center is, I would say ask your employees that you work with, your coworkers, your teammates, hey, how did you use this information? Give me an example of when you created a great demonstration of knowledge for either an internal or external customer, and ask them. And so if you have a short weekly team meeting, a Monday morning huddle, or whatever you want to call it, say, hey, this week we're going to be working on, knowledge and demonstrating that knowledge. And next week I'm going to ask you, some of you, give me some examples of when
Examples
you did.
of it. Sure,
Right.
sure.
So each week you do this, and then after you've got, cycled through the 10, it's like shampoo. You lather, you rinse, and then you
Repeat.
Right. So you can repeat it again. And by the way, Disney does this. They have their Disney 10 Commandments, and this is for their office. They don't do this out in the field, but in the office, in their headquarters, each week is devoted to one of those commandments. And at the end of 10 weeks, they just repeat it.
Just start over.
Yeah, and it just becomes, after a while, it becomes just ingrained in people's minds, and they're just constantly thinking about it. So that's one way. But you specifically asked about, what happens when there's a moment of misery or a confrontation? How do we deal with that? So
it's unfortunate, but we all have those moments.
Right, and we kind of talked about already, the 5-step process: acknowledge, apologize, fix it with the right attitude, a sense of urgency. All of that should be done. And you also, I think you mentioned an online review.
Yes.
I hate when that happens. We get a negative online review. But here's the most interesting thing. There was a study done by Northwestern University, I think just earlier this year, and they said that perfect online reviews, perfect 5-star, 5 out of 5,
Right.
does not do as well. In other words, when people are deciding what business they want to do or where they want to do business, a 4.2 or a 4.4 actually scores higher. So imperfection, I think, proves you're real.
That's a good point.
But let me take it a step further. As you look at the reviews, if you simply ignore the review, that's the worst thing that you can do, because that is what people are looking for. Sure, this person only gave us 2 out of 5 stars. Why did they do it? And what did the company do about it? So the company needs to go in and respond to that review. And it might even say, boy, I am really sorry this happened. This isn't the way we typically do business. We want to take care of you. Let's take this offline. Let's see what we can do to resolve this issue? And so here's what happens. In social media, complaints become a spectator sport. Okay, it's one, and that, by the way, that comes from Jay Baer. That's his line. I've got to give credit to Jay. He's a friend of mine. But what he's basically saying is that, it seems like it's one-on-one, customer and company. But no, there's an audience that's watching.
The peanut gallery.
The peanut gallery, if you will. And potentially, if we manage this incorrectly, the peanut gallery can get big.
Mm-hmm.
It can become viral, okay? So you immediately step in. And by the way, don't wait 2 or 3 or 5 days. You need to be monitoring social channels. Somebody needs to be there. You can create alerts, and there are programs that will monitor, so that on an hourly basis, if you wanted, you can get a report saying somebody left a review or somebody mentioned you in a tweet or on a Facebook post.
Sure.
And you immediately respond, and you can respond with the words I just used if it's a problem, then get it offline, fix it, and then go back on and say, hey, I'm glad we got this resolved. Thank you very much. Ideally, that customer or our patient would come back on and then acknowledge that we did it. That doesn't always happen, but we at least need to give some closure to the people that happen to be watching or happen to be viewing this later on. So it's really important. What you don't want to do is engage beyond that first or second interaction and have the argument escalate to something that's an online feud. That's bad, which is why you want to take it offline.
Right.
And the next thing is, even when somebody is leaving a positive comment, take a moment to respond to that as well. Maybe not necessarily on the review sites, but if somebody tweets about you, if somebody puts a Facebook post about you and you can see it, jump in and make a comment.
Show appreciation.
Show appreciation and engage at any level. I mean, that's part of why they call it social media, because it is social.
Right. So you touched on implementing this in the team with the 1 week at a time, taking one concept.
Mm-hmm.
And how can they maintain the momentum once it really gets pumping?
So that's a great question. And I love that you asked that, because I would have forgotten. One of the exercises we actually did at the program in New York is we did something called the Moments of Magic card. And all this is an index card. And if you look at the original notes, you can see, mine's fancy because it says Moments of Magic across the top. But you can put anything you want.
Sure.
But here's the concept. Again, weekly meeting, ask everybody, say, I want you to bring an example of when you created a moment of magic for someone to the meeting next week. And that could be an internal customer, somebody you work with, or somebody on the outside, a patient, family member, whatever, even somebody just calling in and asking a question. So here's what happens. People freak out over this. Oh my gosh, I got to come up with a moment of magic. It's important to remind them that a moment of magic is just something above average. And if one of our patients says, you know what, you guys are just so friendly, ask why. Or, say, I'm glad you feel that way. Or is there something we did? Ask why you feel that way. What did we do to make you feel? And when they say, it's just when I come in, the way you greet me, boom, that's my moment of magic for the week.
There you go.
It's just when they came in, I said hi and I smiled, okay? And you know what? They appreciated that. Or it could be somebody that called and asked a question, and we said we'd get back to them quickly. And we got back to them within 10 minutes with an answer, and they went, wow, that was fast, okay? Or somebody left a message or sent an email and responded quickly, and that person said, I'm impressed with how quickly you follow up. Here's the point. It doesn't have to be over the top. Sure, it can be over the top. Oh my gosh, I broke my glasses. It's the only pair I have. I'm getting ready to leave the country for 3 weeks. In 2 days, what can you do for me? Okay, and that you rise. Now that's a moment of magic that's over the top, right?
Right.
And like I said earlier, much earlier in this discussion, that those opportunities are going to be there, but we can't wait for those great ones to constantly prove ourselves. So prove ourselves with the little ones. And this is really important. It's an every week thing. For example, in my office, everybody comes in on our Monday morning meetings, and we start off, what's your moment of magic for the week? And many of them are, somebody was impressed that I called them back quickly. Sometimes it's bigger than that, but most of them are the day-to-day things. One of the things, by the way, that was cool about hearing over and over again, they were impressed that we called them back quickly. We defined what quickly would be in our business. What is quickly? Most people would say, well, if we get back to them no later than the next day, they're usually impressed.
Right.
Well, to me, that is really a laggard. That's not quickly. That's maybe average at best. Our definition of quickly is that we get back to somebody the same day, ideally within 3 hours of any email, any phone call. If it's at the end of the day, it makes sense to call them back the next day.
Sure.
But if you call me at noon, you're not going to hear from me at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or the next day. You're going to hear from me probably by 2 or 3, or somebody on my team will respond to you.
Sure.
And we decided, after hearing how many people were impressed, that we responded quickly to formalize what quickly meant. So you'll start to hear some of the same things over and over again. And you'll say, you know what, let's make that just part of our normal everyday procedure.
That makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
So the Moment of Magic card, very powerful. It's the #1 tool that we give our clients. And they say, when they use it, and that's the key, you don't say, oh, let's just do it one time. You do it over and over and over again. And you know what, if it gets stale, try something different. Say, okay, a little twist. Moment of Magic, this week you're talking about yourself. Now you get to talk about somebody else next week. So you find somebody and recognize that they've created a moment of magic and share that with the team. Don't do that all the time. You want them to be aware of their own actions. So maybe once every month or so you'll drop that one in. Or let's do something different this week. Let's not just do a general moment of magic. I want you to think problem solving. What was the moment of misery that you turned around? It could be just somebody had a question and didn't know what to do when you helped them. But if somebody had a problem or a complaint or a real issue, may not be our fault. Somebody breaking their glasses isn't our fault, okay? But if we gave them, something that wasn't right, that is our fault. How quickly do we fix it?
Right.
So use that as the example so you can play around with it and mix it up a little bit.
Sounds like a plan. Shep, any last-minute thoughts?
Well, a couple of things I want you to think about. We've been talking about this whole concept of great service. And service, everybody thinks, is for the front line. And I already mentioned you have internal customers, people that you work with. Recognize this. Service is not a department. Service is not just for the front line. It's everybody's job. It's a philosophy. Delivering great service is a philosophy to be embraced by everybody. The doc, the part-time employee, everybody is delivering a level of service and interacting with people. And recognize that moment of truth is every interaction that you have with the people you work with or do business with. So manage it and make that a moment of magic.
Well, Shep, thank you so much for sharing this knowledge with us today. And do you have any other additional resources that they can use to help maintain their momentum?
Well, sure. Well, you're already sending them, a couple of different resources you're already giving them. And that is, number one, you've given them this program we're doing.
Absolutely.
They can pick up the notes. If they weren't at the event, they should contact you. And again, you give them your email address again, Angie.
Angie.vera@optiport.com.
Yeah, and you probably know how to get Angie. So get those notes. If you didn't get a copy of Moments of Magic, the book, which is a book that closely followed this speech, you've got copies for the members.
Definitely. We'll be sending those out. Just let me know you'd like a copy.
Right. And then the final piece, and if it's a little bit of a pitch, if you love what you heard today, we have all of this in an online training course. We have a number of courses, and if you go to Shep On Demand, that's because you want me on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I am in your face, coming to you through the computer screen. But no, all of this content and much, much more. The basic program is called the Customer Focus. We have a whole program on dealing with complaints. We have, for leadership, a great program on how to create the culture of an organization. So all of that's there. Just go to shepondemand.com. You'll be taken to my virtual university. That's a great resource if you really want to take this to another level.
That sounds great. Shep, thanks again. We appreciate you and appreciate everybody joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. And I always like to sign off by saying, always be amazing.
Perfect.